Okay, so welcome to my behind the scenes deep dive of my Gundam sound redesign that I posted on Twitter a little while ago. A few people expressed interest in seeing some behind the scenes stuff and seeing my process on a few things. So I've been researching sound design for Gundam as a franchise for not too long now, a couple months. I've always been super into it, and I just started watching all the series again on Blu-ray, and which just looks gorgeous, but also sounds so good. And after watching 0083 Stardust Memory, which is my favorite Gundam series, I had to dive in and figure some stuff out because it was so good. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't figured out yet that I really want to. There's a lot of movement things that aren't quite there. There's a lot of like weaponry and stuff that I really want to try to figure out. And I haven't quite got there yet. So let me play the clip again so everyone knows where I'm at. Yeah, cool. So most of there's a motorcycle going by. That's nice. Um, Most of what they used in the show, as far as I can tell, for like pass bys, mobile suit movement, as far as like flying, and like in space jet movement stuff, and explosions was from the Hanna-Barbera library. And so much so that you can recognize a lot of the explosions and such. So let me pull up. So that, like I have this track here, which is all from the Hanna-Barbera library with different effects and things. But let's take a listen. So it's got that crunch to it, and I have a phase mistress on this because they use a lot of ring modulation and they use a lot of phasers. Um, so I don't have anything on that. If stuff on, oh, it's just a EQ. And then I have volume automation on that. Just kind of sell the up closeness more. Um, and then explosions, like you can recognize a lot of these explosions. They're either used for actual explosions, they're used for this, like boosters, um, any sort of like beam weaponry hit, that kind of stuff. They're used everywhere, and so I found this one that kind of worked really well for this, which I'm sure you've probably heard it as like a mobile suit explosion, or they also like to use it a lot for when in ship-to-ship combat when another ship gets hit or it blows up. This is one of the layers in it that you can definitely hear. And then I kind of just went in and I need a little more poof. And then what is this? So I just add another. Oh, it's part of the. Yeah, I wanted more thump on that. I just added. It's a transient of a explosion that I have, and then I just added some radiator and reverb on it. So you can kind of play with stuff like that. Um, Also, they're like, so this is actually from the Odyssey library, and it's just called Space Presence, which I thought was really funny. Um, but that's essentially the background layer for every space shot ever in Gundam. Like, that's it. So that coupled with the jet, like, kind of fills the space out a lot. Um, let's see. So for like the beam weapon stuff, I have Boom Library Sci-Fi, um, and I hate that it goes all the way over there. Um, so I pulled a lot of that kind of stuff around, and like Crystallizer's great for this kind of stuff. So this is the pull out of the beam saber. I'm sorry, that was funky. There. So it has that kind of like anime swing sound to it, which I don't think Crystal already gives it. It does a little bit. Yeah, and then the reverb kind of gives it that extra shine, which works great. Um, and then which is cool as well. What are you anyway? Okay, yeah. So we'll get into the CMI in a minute. Um, so a lot of the other source that I used was like that's literally just um, what's it called? Like the slinky, the slinky laser trick that is also um, put through the CMI. And then I just have whooshes and things that. I have anything on the master track? Yeah, it's just everything's through a phaser and a radiator. Go away, shoo. Thank you. And then also more boom. And then this, which is a lot of people asked about this, um, which is just it. I can't really solo it without. So all of this is put through the CMI, the Arturia CMI via. Let me pull that up so people can like realize what I'm talking about. Oh boy, you're so large. Can you like resize, please? Arturia, you're killing me. All right. So go back. Shoo. Go to screen theme. Oh my God, why are you so big? All right. So this is Arturia's software version of a CMI-V, or sorry, CMI. It's called the CMI-V, and it's basically a sampler, vintage sampler, which you probably saw by the cool board here, which is, I mean, these all work and such, but kind of a gimmicky thing. But this is like super vintage, super early music recording and synthesis. And you can put your own samples in this. So what I did was is I took this this like metal clicking from Akai's Gizmo library, and I put it in here, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. So like you can do many different layers. I usually only do one because I haven't really dove into that. But I put it like I tuned it to like an octave, have an octave below it. The filters are just open. I think there's a lot of this stuff that I'm just like, yeah, it gets the sound I want, so I don't really know how it works. And there's a little bit of a vibrato, but the most important thing on this is when you go to edit on these, you can choose start end times of your different samples that you have, up to a 30-second sample, but the sample rate. So you have, let's play this back real quick. So like on your keyboard, you can play it wherever. It'll just play until you stop playing it for the whole thing, which is cool. But you can like play anywhere on the keyboard, and it just has that. So this is what I use for all the movement stuff, as you can see with the saved preset. Just because it seemed to work really well. Let me try to find the actual sound so you can hear what it sounds like before. It is the. No, you're you. Yeah. So it's like it's already really cool, right? But then you throw it in the awesome CMI, and it just pitches. This is I'm like I think I'm 2 octaves below. One, two. Yeah, I'm 2 octaves below middle C, and it has that lo-fi crunch. And so what I would do is I would just throw in any sort of sample that I wanted, do this, mess with the sample rate enough. Um, I usually left the tune filter that kind of like that, and then I bounced it. The only thing that sucks is that the CMI can only do up to 30-second clips. So luckily the winding clicks is less than 30 seconds. But what I ended up doing was I would have item cuts and prints. So like this stuff, like that's part of a longer file that has more variations of that. But I cut it down into the one that I liked, and like the laser as well. So I don't think I ended up using that. So it ended up turning into stuff like this. So this is all chopped, but man. And then the winch lash, which is great. So yeah, what is this? Yeah, that's another. So there's tons of stuff that's just printed through the CMI just to give it that extra bit of crunch, maximum crunch. Um, and then I've been trying out this new freeform stuff, which is a lot of fun, by the way. Um, yeah, again, it just it adds that crunch and like again, CMI recorded render. Everything's like that. Well, most of it anyway. Um, what are you? Yeah. So that's another pass by from Hanna-Barbera, and I wanted it to be crunchier. So when you want to add the crunch, you put it through the CMI and print it. Um, so the other thing I want to talk about too is that they use a lot of um, is frequency shifting, and so like stuff like this. So like when he's flying towards the so you, it adds that extra movement. They do that with everything, and they do it on the crunchy stuff. They do it on anything and everything. And there's a lot of stuff that um, it sounds like it's some sort of like analog synth source that they put through a frequency shifter and then just like played it, like actually performed it, rather than put it through a make it on the synth. If people understand what I'm saying, um, everything sounds very performed and deliberate. So I have two frequency shifters that I use a lot. This one is the kilohertz, which is super simple and it sounds really good, and just the automation on the item itself. Um, and then there's another one that I use that people probably know more about. It's the Valhalla frequency echo, which come to find out, that's not what I want. I want that. Okay. Um, come to find out, the frequency echo is based off a actual analog frequency shifter, and that frequency shifter was in synth studios everywhere. Like it was a staple. Like people use that everywhere. It was frequently in studios around the time of the first Gundam. It doesn't exist anymore unless you can unless you get the frequency echo, or let me move that over here. I have two screens. I'm sorry. Unless you get this, which works pretty much the same way, but it's not obviously an analog machine, or you find a vintage one somewhere, and use it that way. But you can't get them anymore, and this does frequency shifting, but it also does Like it has more controls than the frequency shift from kilohertz. So there's more than that. So you can get some crazy source just by like loading the feedback up and messing with the shift knob or whatever. That you can get ring modulation out of this. Um, you can get like some sort of delay and like it's a really versatile little plugin and machine. So to like layer this in with a frequency shifter adds a little bit of extra vintageness to it. So pretty sure this is the secret to getting a lot of the other sounds that I haven't figured out yet. But here we are. So this is probably the craziest chain I have in this whole project, which is the shield extend. All right, so yeah, the shield extend uses frequency shifting. So I've automated that into frequency shifter for kilohertz, and then the frequency echo, radiator, crystallizer. The Ubik plugins are outstanding for this kind of stuff. Um, yeah, so it's a lot of those kind of layers mixed in with some crunchy CMI stuff. Um, where else do I have a lot of frequency shifting? Oh yeah, the cool wench here, which is just um, so I have um, frequency shift, which is automated, radiator, crystallizer, and then R base. It has a little that subtle movement that sounds really good. Um, yeah, what else is in here? That's really oh yeah no I did that. That's really it. Um, one more time all the way. And then on the master track, I've got, which you probably shouldn't do, but whatever. It was just a quick exercise. Um, I have the real audio things reels, which is awesome. That's the constant noise you're hearing behind. What am I doing? Animation. It's fun, isn't it? And then, so I did that for the little bit of dirt and the hiss. And then I also have Abbey Road mastering chain on it and a little bit of extra punch. And then this also adds that little bit. Yeah, that's basically it. Um, I don't have any other secrets really. Um, yeah, I want to figure out a lot of the movement that isn't so mechanical. That's more of the blorpy, um, synthesized movements and such. I want to figure those out, and there's a lot of like super layered stuff that just sounds like. Actually, I can pull that up. I have some of that source. Um, which one are you? Nope, that's actual source. Anime sound effects mix. So this is mostly Gundam Wing stuff, but they reuse a lot of this kind of stuff. Oh, that's not what I want. I want like this is great reference. Like obviously, don't ever use this kind of stuff in your own design because it's not yours. Like, see that ending? Like, what is that? I gotta figure it out. But there's like that's very old school Gundam. Um, that's very Gundam Wing, but it's also used in the original series. So like had to have been made as source in that era and reused. Like that's the ring, the phaser stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I'm working on next. Try to figure that out. But I feel like this is a very good start for figuring out what the heck they were doing because it's so unique and different than a lot of the other stuff that was going on at the time. And it's just it's constantly getting better with each series. So like the original Mobile Suit Gundam like was really good, but it was clearly the first. So like you have a lot of this cool design stuff, but it's not as apparent and it's more mechanical. And then you get into the OVA series like 0083, 0080, um, 08 the Mess Team, and that kind of stuff, and they've kind of refined the sound a little bit more, even though it's in the same kind of time frame, um, continuity wise. And then you get stuff like Mobile Suit Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, and which is just really heavily like they have a lot of that mechanical sounds I just showed you. It's way heavier than any other incarnation of the series, um, which is why I'm gonna have to go watch it again because it just sounds so good. But Stardust Memory definitely has a lot of that cool blorpier sounding stuff, and a lot more interface. But yeah, that's my deep dive. I just want to do a quick video on that, and hopefully I shed a little more light on how this stuff was kind of done. And yeah, thanks for watching.